All right. We are reconvening today, November 2nd of 2025. I'm Jay Essen, and we are still making our way through even some more Tales of Castle Balderstone. Between sessions, my OBS updated and it lost some of my configuration details, so I need to check how everything appears, and I forgot that we don't have the ability to save our progress, so we kind of have to play through the beginning of this game again, but let's go ahead and do that. So here is Tales from Castle Balderstone. Here is even some more Tales from Castle Balderstone. And even some more Tales from Castle Balderstone. Good evening. My name is Ryan Veeder. You should open Rainy Mood in a separate tab, which again is rainymood.com. It is my great pleasure in this festive and frightening season to welcome you to Castle Balderstone, America's legendary hotbed of horror, a treasure trove of the morose, macabre, and monstrous. We can say I'm on the edge of my seat, I've heard this speech before, or I'll just skip to the castle map if that's okay. I unthinkingly just clicked I've heard this speech before because I didn't see that there's the option to skip directly there, and it says, I know you've heard it before. I give the same speech every year. It's a tradition. If you're so tired of my chilling introductory monologue, I suppose you already know what I'm going to say next. The options are its cyclopean crenellations loom like pitiless headsmen over rain-soaked courtyards, its gargoyled belfries quiver in silence beneath violent winds and peals of thunder, or its crooked pinnacles slash blasphemously against ever-present clouds. It is obviously the third. Well, it's a lot easier to guess when it's multiple choice. Anyway, Castle Balderstone. Its crooked pinnacles slash blasphemously against ever-present clouds, its grim silhouette is a stain of absolute blackness in the midst of a black sky. Each year, the greatest spook crafters working in the English language assemble in Castle Balderstone's drafty halls to test their latest material on the only audience possessed of hearts so inured to terror as to withstand the absolute scariest stories, each other. Tonight, you are my +1 to this wedding of the weird and the wicked. Okay, I get it, you know the speech. I'm still going to say the whole thing, though. As we ascend the winding stairs of Castle Balderstone, the wind outside howls in warning, and the temperature drops until your teeth chatter in the cold. Or is it in anticipation of the horrors you are about to witness? We trudge through antique galleries, across musty hallways, and down forgotten corridors. The occasional window offers no view of a friendly outside world, but only confirms what your aching legs and ragged breath have already predicted, that the labyrinthine architecture of Castle Balderstone is one you can never hope to escape. Nevertheless, we step on... oh, heck. What's wrong? Well, 2021 is the bicentennial of Castle Balderstone, and they're doing this big deal of a thing with a whole different setup, so we're not convening in the same library we usually do. I forget where we're supposed to be. Are we lost? We are kind of lost. I still basically know where we are, and I have a vague idea of where we're supposed to be. There was a map on the invitation. We just have to trudge through a couple more antique galleries. Did you bring the invitation? No, I didn't bring the invitation. It's fine. It can't be too far. There's only so much castle in here. What's that over there? What are you talking about? Oh, that is the Blood Moon of Gascon. It looks like a ruby, right? But it's actually a red diamond, the rarest color of diamond. Melvin Balderstone bought it for his wife, Catherine, in 1788, before this castle was even built. Melvin's will forbade his heirs from having the gem's value assessed, but unofficial estimates range from $6 to $8 million. This is the first time it's been on display since Lindsay Hepburn Balderstone's funeral in 2004. How do you know all this stuff? I'm just reading the plaque on the other side of the display case. If this is being exhibited for the bicentennial, then the convocation must be somewhere nearby. I think I hear voices over there. Well, then lead the heck on, Macduff. I should explain something before we get there. Because there are so many people here for the bicentennial, we're not having just the one meeting where everyone presents their stories one after another. Instead, they're doing something called breakout rooms, where each presenting author has their own little area, and everyone else wanders from room to room, and supposedly this gives everyone a chance to enjoy every blood-curdling story. I don't know if it actually works, but that's how they're doing it. I can probably handle that. So, we completed La Tavernilia, and it still shows as completed. Let's see. We were going to do Nivo the Dolphin next, so we click... Let's see. Sam J. Benjamin is presenting Nivo the Dolphin in the Mauve Room, which is somewhere over here. What's Sam like? I don't know Sam very well. Actually, I think this is Sam's first year at Castle Balderstone, which is a little ominous. Ominous? Maybe ominous isn't the right word, but you have to understand, this conclave we've got going here is 200 years old. I see what you mean. Yeah, it's not anything against Sam personally, and it's not necessarily anything against the community. It's just human nature to loathe change and to be hostile towards outsiders. I wouldn't put it quite that way. How would you put it then? I would say people tend toward resisting change. Isn't that what I said? You said loathe. All right. Anyway, I have no idea what Sam's deal is, but we'll find out as soon as we get to the mauve room. Is it down that staircase? What? No, it's somewhere on this floor, I'm pretty sure. Keep your eyes peeled for something mauve. Where does that staircase go? I don't know. This place has more staircases than a dog has ticks. Should we check it out? No. We're fine. I know that the mauve room is on this floor in this general area. Is that it over there? Hey, yeah, see? We found it. Good job. Thank you, and welcome, my esteemed guest, to the Mauve Room, one of Castle Balderstone's most fascinating obscurities, though today all its furnishings are bedecked in mauve, from the canopied bed to the Venetian chest of drawers. The chamber's namesake is its infamous mauve wallpaper, designed in 1856 by the controversial psychological decorator Arvid Karlstad. The 24 mauve-upholstered chairs must have been procured especially for this event, as I am almost positive they are not original to the room. The assemblage faces the bed, and the individual seated casually between the canopy hangings must be Sam J. Benjamin. You and I find a pair of empty seats near the Venetian chest of drawers. The room is almost full. What's so infamous about this wallpaper? Ah, yes, the wallpaper. Take a close look, but not too close. Arvid Karlstad took a singularly scientific and somewhat mystical approach to interior design. He avowed that the patterns in this wallpaper possessed irresistible soporific properties perfectly suited to the bedroom of an insomniac like Laura Balderstone. But the story goes that these walls have had additional unintended effects on their occupants, and tales abound of the strange dreams and stranger awakenings that transpired within these walls. What kind of tales? In answer to this question, I can only sort of tilt my head back and glance around mysteriously. Is Sam supposed to be sitting on the bed? I don't know. It's a bold choice. It could be interpreted as disrespectful or overly casual, and Sam is in a delicate position with the broader Castle Balderstone community, as we've previously discussed. Is the story going to start anytime soon? I think perhaps it is, comes a voice from the edge of the canopy bed, responding to your indelicately phrased question. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Sam J. Benjamin, and this is my first time attending the festivities at Castle Balderstone. I'm deeply honored by the opportunity to present a story to you at this historic bicentennial convocation. Sam pauses, smiles, gestures helplessly and disarmingly. That's what I'm supposed to say, of course, but the fact is, I really can't express what an honor it is just to be invited. There are so many great authors here whose work I've admired for so many years, it's hard to convince myself that I belong here. I glance over at you, ominous. But I'm here regardless, and I've been asked to present a story, so that's what I'll do. With that, Sam opens a notebook and begins to read. Ryan Veeder presents Nivo the Dolphin, an undersea tale by Sam J. Benjamin. Release 1, serial number 221122, in Form 7, version 10.1.2, Vorpal version 3.2.5. A dolphin swims alone in the ocean. His name is Nivo. I am trying to verify how the author art is cut off. If I shrink it down, oh, you can see that I have been watching videos. Let's take a look here. Okay. About the author, Sam J. Benjamin lives in Oakland, California with the dumbest dog in the Western Hemisphere. So there we go. Oh, no. What is this? Did it... This is with the correct title, isn't it? Even some more tales from Castle Balderstone Part 2. I just tuned into the wrong video. I have this broadcast. I thought I had this broadcast playing on my laptop, but actually I was replaying the first video the entire time. That looks better. Okay, that explains why I was not seeing things sync up properly. Okay, let us resume. A dolphin swims alone in the ocean. His name is Nivo. Let's examine me. Nivo is a gray dolphin, an adolescent male. I guess we are swimming? Nivo swims through the water. There's a shape up ahead. Examine shape. It's a strange shape. Nivo is curious. Can I swim to the shape? So Nivo swims in for a closer look. The shape is a shipwreck. Let's examine that shipwreck. Nivo is too far away to inspect the shipwreck in detail. Well, we swim to the shipwreck then. Nivo keeps swimming toward the ship until he's right next to it. The ship is huge and ancient. You can't see it, nothing at the moment. Let's examine the ship. There's a hole in the deck, big enough for Nivo to swim through. Swim through hole. That is not the appropriate term. Let's go in instead. Nivo swims inside. Bridge. Filth hangs like forbidden questions in the water, evoking teenaged photographers kicking dust in Victorian mansions, inhaling mold and asbestos, and clove cigarettes and pawing at each other until the sirens start. Seaweed claws like an invalid at railings and walls, and a single shaft of sunlight full of rot and plankton falls on the face of the ship's captain, grinning worms out of his eyeball sockets. Exits are down, starboard, in, out. Nivo doesn't really know what a box is, can only halfway comprehend the ideas of containing and enclosure and tantalizing concealment, but his dolphin brain can discretize the presence of what you and I would refer to as a steel case, secured with shiny little latches, its contents visible only to the imagination, its surface painted with what you and I would understand as the words "Danger Experimental Equipment." Can we examine the box? Among so much decrepitude, this steel case remains intact and stainless, by which we may infer that it was designed to protect some particularly precious variety of dangerous experimental equipment. Nivo the dolphin, however, sees it only as a shiny object. The words "danger experimental equipment" painted on the lid are meaningless to him. Can we open the box? Nivo is consumed by a desire to see what is inside the steel case, and he prods desperately at the lascivious container with his slender cetacean snoot, the closest thing he possesses to a manipulatory appendage. But the nose of a dolphin lacks the fine motor dexterity requisite to the unlatching of the case's shiny little latches, and the box remains chastely, infuriatingly, addictively unopened. Can't just bonk the box. Okay, let's examine the captain. His epaulets and rank insignia were long ago rotted away. His lungs, too, are decayed into nothing, having executed the perfidious scheme of filling themselves with salt water and drowning their master. The captain's ribcage is now tenanted by ghostly white asymmetrical sea sponges, nodes pulsing, softly struggling to filter the filthy water that fills the halls of the mighty sunken ship Znagnos. Can we talk to Captain? The dead captain can't talk. If he could, he would refuse to apologize. He has been rehearsing his excuses for decades, and Nivo would be convinced, but the captain can't talk. Okay, well, this game, the directions, as we can see, are going to be a little convoluted. Because we can go up or down, starboard or port, in or out, which means that a relatively small map can become extremely convoluted through directions that do not map cleanly onto a grid without some cleverness. Let's start by let's try to prioritize going in first whenever possible, then on the same level, and then up or down from there. So let's begin by going in to science access. The phallic symbol patrolling this corridor is a bug-eyed eel, gawking and wagging its heinous tongue at Nivo's approach. In the infinite/non-existent past, a flight of stairs led downward to the science deck above. Today, these same stairs, whimsically inverted by fatal catastrophe, careen upward to the science deck below. Exits are out and up. I examine the eel. Nivo, having never viewed a non-skeletal human's face, is unburdened by the human tendency to see human faces everywhere on every surface all the time. The resemblance of this eel's features to those of a lecherous-aged male human, specifically David Alpax of 18756 Sherman Way in Reseda, is completely coincidental and meaningless. The unseemly lolling of its tongue is purely instinctual. Nivo chirps a friendly hello to the much stupider eel. The eel, understanding by slow degrees that Nivo is neither prey, nor predator, nor potential mate, finds that it has no reaction to such a stimulus stored in its meager memory banks, and is incapable of inventing a novel response to a novel situation. Fair enough. So I think we go up to the research deck. Obscenely miniature petabytes fester and lurk and surround Nivo with more information than he, or I, or you could ever conceive of. Fortunately, these wily data are confined to inoperable drives on drowned hardware, degrading in their hibernation toward an infinite series of zeros. Exits are down, port, and aft. Okay, so now we have forward and aft in addition to up and down, starboard and port, in and out. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and put forward and aft in that list of priorities somewhere. First, I want to go port to the prosthetics lab. A skeletal hand waves a paralytic hello to Nivo, reaching beckoningly from under a huge and incomprehensible piece of machinery that crushed almost all of a nameless naval researcher's body, except his hand. I'll examine the hand. The number 5 has little to recommend it beyond the evolutionary accident that extruded that many phallic symbols from each of our extremities. Nivo regards the motionless bones with a sense of foreboding, perhaps guessing that when he himself perishes and rots into a soulless yellow pile of bones, his disintegrating flippers will reveal the same number of phalanges, mangled by natural selection into forms more hydrodynamic, but no less grisly. I examine the machinery. Indescribable forms defined by 1,000 ineffable purposes are coupled here into what we hilariously refer to as a discrete object. Certain of its surfaces bear written instructions for the machine's operation, but Nivo cannot read. Now we'll go up to the security gate. Police are in the business of protecting property, which is theft. The ultimate heist is the vault unrobbed, the greatest thief, Sir Robert Peel. The police are the public, and the public are the police. Ergo, the public is in the business of protecting theft, and business is good. The gate is locked. Exits are forward, down, and in. Let's try going for... Let's start by going in. Nivo cannot progress to the inside of the security gate because it is held fast by invisible bolts and magical locks. Well, in that case, let's go forward to the research deck. So we have done a little loop. Obscenely miniature petabytes fester and lurk and surround Nivo with more information. Examine drives. Naivo fails to recognize the computers as specimens of information technology. He assumes that he is swimming among the skeletons of creatures cursed with glass bones. Okay, so we need to go down to get back to science access. And now let's go out. Now we're back at the bridge. This was all a result of going in. Instead, let's go starboard to medical access. A stiletto-fanged abyssal Pelagian casts its blinking lights over the twisted corridor, gulping up flakes of black decay. Signage indicating the direction of the ship's hospital has been covered completely by a layer of rust, and then by a layer of rust-eating barnacles as yet unknown to science. Exits are port and in. I examine the fish. Naivo swims over to inspect the blinking fish. It stares back at him with eyes like two soap bubbles filled with cigarette smoke. Its jaws are two broken combs, their teeth-like teeth unable to mesh properly. Rows of lateral glow spots flash in meaningless random sequences, wasting valuable chemical energy in a dubious attempt to hypnotize its prey. Soon it is apparent that the creature either has no interest in Naivo, or is in fact unable to see him with its milky smoke bubbles, and so Naivo turns his attention elsewhere. Can we talk to the fish? Recognizing the fangly fish as a fellow vertebrate, Naivo utters a high-pitched click giggle by way of greeting. The fish has no response to this, however. It only gapes at Naivo and sucks in another gillful of putrid water. Let me check out the barnacles. Volcanic crustacean pustules have spread like a scaly rash over the walls in greedy pursuit of the delectable, omnipresent rust. Let's go ahead and head inward then. To the medical deck. Millions of tons of crushing force have merged the reception counter with several rows of uncomfortable chairs into a single compact mass of twisted metal, bulletproof glass, and non-biodegradable polyester upholstery. A nearby hallway spins down into the murky depths of the medical deck. The swinging doors to the surgical theater hang open, swaying coquettishly on the current. Exits are aft, down, and out. If we go aft, that's the surgical theater. Swallow your anxiety, gentle listener. There is nothing for you to fear in this toppled coliseum of the Hippocratic arts. The bloody operating table rests in mangled, rusty disuse. The bleachers are empty. The only spectators are Naivo the dolphin and various disembodied eyeballs and tongues and hearts and lungs and a few other preserved organs exhibited in shattered vitrines surrounding the medical arena. Other than that, there's nothing here. Exits are forward. I examine the organs. Shattered glass cases present an assortment of human components, shellacked or suspended in toxic liquids slowly seeping from their flasks and poisoning Naivo's brain, which is presently engaged in evaluating the specimens on the basis of their possible tastiness. One vitrine, the final vitrine of them all, is miraculously intact, its glass panel having survived the ravages of the mysterious shipwreck and the indeterminate intervening years. Examine final vitrine. Naivo contemplates the unaccountable intactness of the final vitrine. There is a plaque inside, which he cannot read. In the final vitrine is a boring computer chip thing. Let's go forward. And let's go down to the corridor. Naivo swims past the crumpled doorways of the ship's infirmary. Invisible patients moan and keen and brandish their chains, unaware that their invincible vessel has collided irretrievably with the ocean floor, that even their luckiest brothers in arms are now reduced to worm food and coral substrate. Exits are up and down. I'm guessing I cannot examine the patients? The sources of the unceasing wails and shrieks lie beyond these doorways, and Naivo fortunately has no idea what spectral forms the patients may at this moment have taken. Doorways? The force of impact reduced each doorway to a jagged crevice between wall sections, impossible to navigate, except by various tiny bottom-feeding beasts that decades ago crawled into each room to feast on the remains of the occupants and, having exhausted the culinary possibilities of one human tragedy, scuttled on toward another buffet. I guess we continue down then. To the hospital cell. Nivo happens upon a skeleton, shish-kebabbed to his hospital bed by a length of rebar that at one time was critical to the ship's structural integrity. Exits are up. The skeleton has been screaming since before Nivo got here. Examine skeleton. Presumably, the skeleton was not admitted to the infirmary after complaining about the rebar pinning him to his hospital bed. His initial diagnosis must forever remain a mystery. At the moment, though, he has only one symptom worth noting. He is screaming, continuously, all the time, forever. Let's try talking to our skeleton friend. With a friendly chirp, Nivo attempts to engage the skeleton in conversation. The skeleton shrieks in response. Nivo answers with a series of quizzical clicks. The skeleton wails piteously. Nivo listens carefully and then opens his mouth to utter a high-pitched scream of his own, a scream to wake the dead. The skeleton screams his approval, and Nivo is pleased to have learned a new skill on this little excursion. The skeleton is still screaming. Nivo tries screaming again. The skeleton nods patiently. He has heard plenty from this amateur. He has screaming of his own to do. The skeleton continues to scream. I examine the rebar. The rusty skewer penetrates the patient's rib cage, his bed, the floor beneath his bed, etc. Cause of death unrecorded. The skeleton, understandably, will not stop screaming. Ever. I suppose there's nothing more to be gained by talking further. Nivel whistles a friendly hello at the skeleton, who screams back at him in what we may convince ourselves is intended as a friendly manner. I guess we'll go back up. To the corridor. Let's try screaming for our invisible patients. Nivo wails in tune with the ghostly mariners, joining their eternal harmony of despair. But soon he must leave off shrieking, for eternity is the province of the dead, and Nivo has a destiny to achieve here and now in the realm of measurable time. We continue up to the medical deck. Let's go aft to the surgical theater, and we'll scream here. Nivo screams with all the fury and frustration of an impaled sailor's doomed ghost, causing the window of the single remaining intact vitrine to tremble, shudder, convulse, and finally explode into incredibly sharp pieces which float softly and dangerously down to the back of the inside of the display case. The bizarre device within the vitrine drifts lazily out of its container toward Nivo. Nivo, possessing a dolphin's natural curiosity, propels himself closer to the device. The device, correctly interpreting Nivo's desire to familiarize himself with its workings and purpose, launches itself toward our hero's forehead, finding purchase within its golden arachnoid terminals in his fleshy forehead. Nivo cries out in bestial yet completely relatable shock and pain. Yet, when he recovers his senses, he discovers he is capable of comprehending the engraved plaque in the vitrine, set below the spot where the audacious contrivance was once displayed. Literacy Augmentation Implant, it says. Nivo reads and understands these words as easily as you just now have done. Though perhaps more easily still if you are watching this video despite a literacy deficiency of your own. No judgment here, if so. Obviously, we have heroes entirely worthy of success regardless of their ability to read. Let us continue forward. And now, we've gone both down and aft. Let's go out to medical access. A stiletto-fanged abyssal pelagian casts its blinking lights over the twisted corridor. Signage indicating the direction of the ship's hospital, covered with rust and barnacles. Okay, so now We go port to the bridge. Now Nivo is capable of understanding the words danger experimental equipment printed on the steel case that rests here, and his imagination can boil over with hypotheses as to what delectable treasures might rest at the intersection of these terms. So this was from Starboard. Let's try going in now to Science Access. And we go up to the research deck. We go port to the prosthetics lab. We examine the machinery. Though the physical structure of the machine is beyond Nivo's and your ability to understand, he is at least able to read the directions written on its various surfaces. Prosthesis dispenser. Turn switch to operate. Turn switch. Nivo follows the very clear instructions and flicks the main switch of the machine. After so many years submerged at the bottom of the ocean, slowly grinding its cherished custodian into wet paste, the unbelievably sophisticated robotic brain is still able to analyze the inquisitive operator's condition. It notices immediately that Nivo doesn't have any hands. In the next millisecond, the machine has designed a prosthesis to meet the needs of Nivo's unique morphology. Components grind and enmesh. Pneumatic tubes are measured, sliced, and plugged into pneumatic pumps. The machine's own bionic arms extract the newborn appendage from its bowels and thrust its stump end into Nivo's rubbery flank. Artificial neurons emerge from their microscopic layers to insinuate themselves into the dolphin's nervous system. Nivo's new arm flexes itself, taps its thumb against its finger pads, plays a few silent arpeggios upon an invisible piano. All systems are nominal. The procedure was a success. The machine, satisfied with its handiwork, deactivates itself. A few minutes later, Nivo regains consciousness. Nivo is a gray dolphin and adolescent male. Nivo waves his hand in front of his face for closer inspection. Possessing only rudimentary anatomical knowledge, he is unperturbed by the artificial muscle's resemblance to real flesh, rendered in tubes and pumps and wires. The hand waves. Nivo waves back. Aw, can't just shake hands? Fair enough. Nivo can't look at the chip now because it has implanted itself in his forehead in a position that in humans would correspond to the third eye, or Ajna Krakra? Something like that, anyway. Let's go up to the security gate. Let's examine the gate. Like a wall of red steel is the security gate, emblazoned with the words, Top Secret Security Area Access Denied. A nearby control panel is the next object to draw our attention. The reader will undoubtedly conclude that the grid of buttons in the backlit display and the laser receptor on this control panel have something to do with the nearby security gate, but how a dolphin would figure all this out is beyond me. The backlight part of the backlit display still works and glows with an eerie electrofluorescence, but what is displayed is nothing. The buttons are not marked. This would betray the research deck's code of secrecy. Nivo nudges a few buttons with his bionic fingers to no effect. Laser receptor? The black lens in the control panel is recognizable as a laser receptor only to discerning eyes such as the reader's. Nivo, on the other hand, has basically no idea what he's looking at. Forward to the research deck. Let's go port. No, let's go starboard. Let's go down. Let's go out. Back to the bridge. Okay. Let's go down now to engineering access. A red gate bars further expeditions. Engineering deck authorized personnel only, it says. Nivo parses these words as a challenge. Exits are up and in. The red steel gate, closed, is operated by a control panel thingy off to the side. We examine this panel. The panel's interfaces are rusted and rotted and chewed. All that remains is a black laser receptor. The gate remains closed no matter how much Nivo bangs on it. Let's go in. Going inside would be going through the gate, which is closed, and Nivo is not a ghost. Okay. Nivo drags a massive scream out of his lungs, loud enough to rattle the captain's bones. The venerable officer's eye worms recede fearfully into the protection of their socket. Something rumbles ominously below decks. Now we go down to engineering access. Nivo screams, but nothing happens. Fair enough. Let's go back up. Let's go out to the ocean. The sea is beautiful, but a nameless and irrepressible force compels Nivo to swim back inside the sunken ship. Back to the bridge. Okay, yeah, we didn't check this box properly. Nivo contemplates the case. He understands now what danger experimental equipment means, but is he discouraged by its implications? No, he is all the more intrigued as you were when you read the same words earlier. Open the case. Nivo reaches out with his prosthetic hand and unlatches the latches. He raises the lid of the case. Inside is the advanced prototype of an ocular laser, designed for hands-free welding and such-like implementations. The device recognizes that its hour has come at last, and eagerly it rises from its steel tomb, floating toward Nivo with reverent anticipation. A moment of analysis is enough for the ocular laser to determine how best to serve its new host. It propels itself directly toward Nivo's left eye, worming its way into the socket and causing what human engineers had determined were nearly acceptable amounts of pain and structural damage. It takes Nivo a moment to recover from the procedure. He is suffering from a headache that he will eventually realize is permanent, but soon he discovers that when he points his ocular laser at something, say the steel case, a beam of blinding radiance bursts out of his left eye and starts burning the object of his gaze. Point laser at case. A few more glares, a few more scorch marks. Nivo tires of this babyish substitute for real destruction. The steel case that once contained Nivo's ocular laser attachment is still here, forever useless now that its contents are grafted into Nivo's living bones. Let's go down. We examine the panel. Point laser at receptor. Nivo squints at the black eye of the laser receptor and pours into its receptive depths a blast of red-hot credentials. The security is powerless to resist. Mindlessly, almost robotically, it rolls itself out of its master's way, unveiling for the first time in centuries the unnatural and intolerable secrets of the engineering deck. We go in. Engineering deck. The expression of mingled horror and desperation splayed across this skeleton's fleshless face makes it clear that he spent his last moments attempting uselessly to escape the citadel of torment that is the engineering deck. Fortunately, the twisted hallway descending into the hideous bowels of the engineering deck is blocked by rubble, and it will be impossible for Nivo to progress further. Exits are out and down. Let's examine the skeleton. Nivo swims in for a closer look. He has no pity for these rotting bones. He understands only dimly that the brain that once frolicked in this skull was as capable of joy and cynicism and horniness as he himself now is. This skeleton can't even manage to scream. Nivo ignores him. Nivo screams, not because the skeleton is so distressing, but because he doesn't know what else to do. We can go down. Nivo can swim no further down on account of there is so much rubble in his way, on account of the horrifying incident that sank the mighty sunken ship Znagnos, involved so much smashing and wrenching and wailing and debris. What once were walls and floors, which sailors call bulkheads and decks, and doors and human bodies, which sailors call hatches and acceptable losses, are now collected in a single mass of impenetrable wreckage. Nivo shoots his laser at the wreckage to no avail. The wreckage is laser-proof. Nivo can go out or down. We go back out to engineering access and up to the bridge. Now we go starboard to medical access. No, we go back port. Let's go in to science access. Talk to Eel. Scream. Nivo screams with murderous passion, startling the depraved Eel only briefly. Go up to the research deck. Aft to the security gate. Examine the panel. Point laser at receptor. Nivo stares into the laser receptor, and his ocular laser activates itself, firing a high-density stream of photonic information into the black eye of the control panel. Ancient circuits groan and creak out of their electronic dreamscapes, relaying Nivo's credentials to the seaweed-shrouded servos of the steel door. The motors rotate, the door rises, and a new path is opened. In is top secret storage. Matter is energy vibrating at ultra-low frequencies, ether stooping to corporeality. Dark matter, then, is negative energy. Hate and loneliness and boredom and frustration and sexual frustration make up 48% of the mass of the universe. In this puckered chamber stands a glass display case. In the glass display case is a shoulder-mounted missile launcher. Exits are out. I examine the case. The perpendicular regularity of the case speaks to its high degree of importantness. Nivo is now smart enough to understand this kind of thing. In the glass case is a shoulder-mounted missile launcher. Nivo wants that missile launcher so bad, he is biting his tongue unconsciously. The glass case isn't open. Can't open it. Nivo is now a virtuoso in the art of shrieking, and with the barest effort is able to scream at the resonant frequency of the display case, causing its panes to throb and wince, and eventually yield to this mighty animal's rapacious appetite for destruction. The glass shatters and explodes all over the place, grazing Nivo's face with needle-thin stripes of viscous dolphin blood, but Nivo doesn't care. He craves the thing inside the case. With a bellow that is now neither a scream nor a dolphin noise, he commands the shoulder-mounted missile launcher to float out of its prison of smithereens and attach itself to his dolphin bod. The missile launcher recognizes Nivo's dominance and complies. Nivo no longer even blinks during the painful process of conjunction necessitated by this latest augmentation. He understands now that pain and suffering are distinct experiences, that pain is a necessity, but suffering is a choice. This experimental missile launcher condenses ambient antimatter and focuses it into a high velocity shell of perfectly black energy that explodes violently on contact with anything solid. Nivo the dolphin can shoot it at whatever he wants. Shoot case launcher. Nivo aims at the missile case. A wet blob of antimatter shoots out of the missile launcher and hits the ruined case, ruining it even more. Out. The security gate is open. All secrets are unveiled, rendered banal by compulsive curiosity. Forward to the research deck. Port to the prosthetics lab. Security gate. Forward. Okay, I'm just looping in circles. Let's go down. Let's go out. Here we are in the bridge. Now we go starboard? Nope. Oh, backport. Now we go down to the engineering access. The rectilinear maw of the engineering deck is spread wide as matrimonial arms eager to receive Nivo's precipitate exploration. We go in to the engineering deck. We launch, shoot, rubble with launcher. Nivo wills his missile launcher into action. Nearby anti-quarks and anti-electrons congregate in the device's hidden chambers, focusing themselves into an infinitesimal sphere of pure negativity, which zooms into the troublesome wreckage and explodes it all over the place. The way is open for Nivo to trample footlessly through the innermost viscera of the engineering deck. Down. Engine monitor station. An IMAX-sized window is necessary for the miserable sailors doomed to the abominable duty of monitoring the engine core. No such sailors are here now. They are dead. They died. Exits are up and down. I examine the core. A gigantic metal shutter covers the window. Nothing can get through. The engine core is on the other side. Examine shutter. Shoot shutter with launcher. The antimatter missile that Nivo fires at the shuttered window explodes with a photonic boom of outrageous intensity, but the shutter is antimatter-proof and bears no mark of our hero's violent frenzy. That's a neat trick. Let's go down. Let's examine sailors. Nope. They're gone. Let's go down. A huge red security gate and its access panel separate Nivo from the engine core. Exits are up and in. The gate is incredibly large. Nivo does not pause to wonder why. Examine the panel. The control panel has a laser receptor such as you have encountered before. Point laser at receptor. Nivo shoots his laser into the control panel. The massive gate shudders. Then it disintegrates. The gigantic gate is gone. Exits are up and in. Engine core. Finally, Nivo reaches the objective of his aquatic defilements. Now, at long last, we witness the mountainous form of Thesorchnius, the titan whose immortal energies propelled the impious ship Znagnos across the seas, the living catastrophe who wrestled his prison to the uttermost depths, the monster who drew innocent Nivo from out of the blank and empty ocean into this colliginous shipwreck, compelling him to explore every rot-encrusted corner of the vessel until he unsealed the engine core and liberated its impossible occupant. But Thesorknius somehow is not pleased to see Nivo. He notices our hero's prosthetic hand, his shoulder-mounted missile launcher. He is also somehow able to intuit that Nivo has learned to read. These all-too-human accoutrements drive Thesorknius into a cyclopean rage. The shattered hulk of the Znagnos vibrates, fit to wreck itself all over again, as this walking city of wrath disgorges an earth-quaking roar. The Carcerian vault of the engine core begins collapsing around Nivo, and Thesorknius reaches with whale-like fingers to squish him into dolphin paste. Nivo's screams are inaudible amid the omnipresent cacophonous fury of Thesorknius. Nivo is forced to swim as fast as he possibly can while laden with various incredibly expensive augmentations in order to avoid being destroyed immediately. But which way should Nivo swim? The hands of Thesorknius find their mark and slam Nivo into the floor of the engine core, pulverizing the ceramic tiles meant to contain the Titan's limitless and absurdly profitable energy output. We'll shoot him with a rocket launcher then. Nivo charges an antimatter blast and fires it at a random segment of his opponent's incredibly large body. The shell of darkness finds its mark and explodes, vaporizing large pieces of Thesorknius in the process. Let's do it again. Another dark matter missile ejects from the barrel of Nivo's shoulder-mounted cannon and flies straight into the palm of one of Thesorknius' outstretched claws. The appendage noisily disintegrates. This does not make Thesorknius any angrier, however. He is already as angry as any entity can possibly be. Nivo squawks gleefully at the carnage he has created. Let's do it again. Nivo fires another missile, this time aiming it at the monster's midsection. Thesorknius has been made painfully aware of the effects of antimatter on his body, though, and he saves his torso from destruction by blocking the projectile with his remaining hand. Now Thesorknius has no hands left, and Nivo has infinity missiles. Nivo, exhausted, must slow down for a fraction of a second, but this is more time than Thesorknius needs. Bionic hand, missile launcher, and dolphin are consumed together in a single fatal chomp. Thesorknius swallows his savior with ironic relish. Then he steps forward out of the gate of the engine core that was his prison for untold centuries. He reopens his abyssal gullet and begins to consume what little remains of the Znagnos. When the mighty ship has been reduced to dust, he will find something else to destroy. The end. Click here to continue. Applause fills the mauve room, and Sam nods modestly. It looks like Sam will get along with you Balderstone people just fine. It looks that way, and yet I am not convinced. These sharks are very good at clapping politely for a story they don't like. Don't ask me how I know that. Ah, but observe. The benecklaced lady standing up in the front is Marine Charpentier, blessed with some arcane connubial connection to the Balderstone bloodline. She couldn't write her way out of a bathtub, but she has more clout than the rest of the room put together. It is by her whim that we are all rising now to give Sam J. Benjamin a standing ovation, and now Sam is giving us an exaggerated, self-deprecating sort of bow, which... Hold the phone. What? Are you seeing this? Marine Charpentier is walking up to Sam, taking Sam's hand in hers, and whispering something in Sam's ear. What is she whispering? How should I know? Watch Sam's face. We'll be able to tell if it's good news. I can't really see from over here. Okay, I'll give you the play-by-play. Sam is smiling. A little. But Marine is still talking. Still talking... Okay, that's a real smile. Sam J. Benjamin has nothing to worry about. We can get going now if you want. We've got sure, or don't you want to hang around and congratulate Sam? Not really. We don't know each other or anything. And now that they know Madame Charpentier approves, everybody else is rushing up for a chance to get in good with the newest member of the Balderstone fold. So this is a great time to get scarce. All right, then. Again, we enter the drafty castle hallways. Finding our way back should be a lot easier, bearing in mind, of course, that the labyrinthine architecture of Castle Balderstone is one you could never hope to escape. I detect that you have something to say. You are saying that those guys don't like new people. Yes, and? Do they like me? Oh, my dear, sweet, esteemed guest. If these guys decided they didn't like you, I would be the last to know. You would be second to last. That's reassuring. Where should we go next? We have Visit Skooga Lake, which is huge, and Singing for Me. Difficulty Harvest Mood, length 92 days. This is one I have not played yet, so I would like to save it for last, to end on a really high note of something unusual and unexpected. But Visit Skooga Lake also has good candidacy for being final, since it is such a long game, and it is also noteworthy in being a game that has been further expanded upon in a release separate from the Castle Balderstone context. So we could definitely do either of them, but I think I will save that for next time. So thank you so much for joining me today. I have been Jay Essen, and we will reconvene in the future.